You know, keeping a massive 10,000-gallon pond thriving is a monumental challenge. In the sweltering summer heat, the oxygen levels just plummet. And in the dead of winter, a solid sheet of ice seals the surface, trapping toxic gases and basically threatening to turn your koi into popsicles. You absolutely need serious, continuous water movement. So today, we're doing a complete explainer on a heavyweight solution for this exact problem, the Danner PondMaster AP100 air pump. Let's look at the source specs to see exactly what this unit brings to the table and who it's truly built for.
So here's the game plan for this explainer. We'll meet the Danner AP100, dive into the pros and cons, walk through the maintenance and rebuilding process, and wrap it all up with a final performance summary.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, Meet the Danner AP100. But before we get completely lost in the raw numbers, I want you to ask yourself a pretty crucial question. Can the AP100 actually handle your specific setup? Because, honestly, your pond's depth and total water volume, those are going to be your ultimate deciding factors here. 9,150. That is the absolutely staggering number of cubic inches per minute of air volume that this single pump can move. To put that into perspective, it's about 5.3 cubic feet of air per minute. That is a massive amount of output. It's literally designed to aerate huge bodies of water, up to 10,000 gallons. We're talking extra-large koi ponds, small lakes, or even multi-tank commercial hatcheries.
When you look at the entire AP series lineup, the AP100 sits squarely at the top, right? It handles double the water volume of the AP40 and almost twice the airflow of the AP60. But here's the real kicker. Look at the power column. To generate that massive 9,150 cubic inches of airflow, it only needs 100 watts of electricity. It is just a wildly efficient linear diaphragm compressor.
Now, before you go plugging this thing in, we've got to talk installation. This unit is absolutely not submersible. Danner explicitly mandates that you mount the pump at least 12 inches above the water level. Why? To prevent back siphoning if the power suddenly goes out. Oh, and you've got to create a physical drip loop in the power cord. That just makes sure any condensation traveling down the cord safely drips onto the ground instead of running straight into your electrical outlet. And hey, if you're putting this outdoors, you absolutely must enclose it in a weather-resistant cover. You have got to protect it from the elements.
Moving right along to Section 2, the AP100 Pros. So we already touched on that crazy 100-watt energy efficiency and the massive airflow, but let's talk acoustics for a second. This pump pushes all that air at a whisper-quiet 45 decibels. I mean, from just a short distance away, it's barely audible. Plus, it has an oil-free design. That is huge, because it means there is literally zero risk of mechanical lubricants contaminating your water or hurting your fish. And in the winter, it's an absolute lifesaver. By pushing air to the surface, it stops the water from freezing over entirely so toxic gases can escape. Actually, a great pro tip from the sources, keep the pump in an insulated chamber outdoors or even indoors so it pumps warmer air into the pond. That really helps avoid a dangerous temperature drop known as hypercooling.
Okay, let's flip the coin. Section 3, the AP100 Cons.
Now, there is a really fascinating contrast here between what the manufacturer claims and what actually happens in the real world. Danner states a max depth of 11.5 feet, but veteran pond owners tell a slightly different story. For instance, user Snoob on the Pond Boss forums points out that because of how linear actuated rubber diaphragm pumps work, the airflow drops off extremely rapidly the deeper you go. He strongly recommends treating 8 feet as your true maximum depth if you actually want proper aeration.
So, consolidating these drawbacks, that rapid pressure drop is for sure the main culprit. Even after a fresh rebuild, the unit might stall out around 3 psi, and honestly, that just won't push bubbles from the bottom of a 10-foot deep pond. No way. Furthermore, running this linear pump 24/7 through the blistering summer heat, that means constant grueling friction on the internal rubber diaphragms. You should fully expect those to wear out and tear every 6 to 12 months. And remember what we said earlier, the housing is only weather resistant. It needs strict overhead protection from direct rain and the beating summer sun.
Which brings us right to Section 4, Maintenance and Rebuilding.
So inside the AP100, there's this linear motor driving the whole show. The armature moves rapidly back and forth, actuating rubber diaphragms on each end to pump the air. But you know what's actually fantastic about this specific design? It's how it fails. When one of those rubber diaphragms eventually tears from all that friction, the armature just goes off center. The magnet catches onto the stator coil and the pump safely stops itself. It doesn't violently self-destruct or anything. It just safely halts the airflow and waits for you to fix it.
And fixing a blown diaphragm? It really doesn't have to be a nightmare. It is a super simple 4-step process. You just use these replacement kits that'll run you like 12 to 25 bucks. You disconnect the power, unscrew the cover, swap out the old rubber flapper valves and diaphragms for the fresh ones, and screw it all back together. That's the whole shebang. You don't even need to fully remove the motor block. It's quick, it's cheap, and it gets your pond breathing again in a matter of minutes.
All right, let's wrap this up. Section 5, Final Performance Summary.
So, at the end of the day, who is this pump actually for? Well, the definitive verdict is that the Danner AP100 is best for high-volume aeration in large, relatively shallow setups. And by shallow, we mean 8 feet deep or less. It's also an absolute champion for winter de-icing, thanks to that oil-free high-flow output. But it is absolutely not for ponds pushing past that 8 to 10 foot mark. The water pressure at that depth just overcomes the motor. And it's definitely not for the totally hands-off user who wants to plug a piece of equipment in and literally never look at it again.
Which leaves us with one final, pretty important thought. You're getting incredible, whisper-quiet 100-watt energy efficiency here. That's going to save you serious money on your electric bill month after month. But in exchange, you've got to be willing to spend 20 bucks and maybe 20 minutes rebuilding the heart of the pump once or twice a year. So, what's it going to be? Is that maintenance trade-off worth the massive savings for your pond? Take a hard look at your depth, evaluate your patience, and you'll have your answer. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you on the next one.